So let's start looking at the Bhagavad-Gita, the ancient Sanskrit Hindu text, so important in the history of that religion, but also the history of human thought. I'm not really sure what the date of composition is. I just remember about 300 BC, but I think that's disputed. It's a work at least 2,000 years old, and it deals, it is part of a much longer cycle of poems, texts, but I am not really familiar with that. I'm only familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, which literally means the song of God. What is the Bhagavad Gita? Well, it's what we find right here, chapter one or teaching one, the sorrow of Arjuna. That's what the editor calls it. It's not really. Um, I don't think that appears anywhere in the original manuscript. But what do we have? We have a scene. It's the time just before a battle, and the great warrior Arjuna is looking across at the other side, the soldiers that he will be called upon to fight and kill or be killed by. It is a civil war that he's engaged in. He's on one side of a dynastic struggle, a struggle for the crown of this particular kingdom, and he's about to fight. And my understanding is that, like a lot of ancient peoples at that time in that part of the world, the more important warriors in a battle fought in chariots. Arjuna has a bow and arrow that he'll be fighting with. And so he has a charioteer. He has somebody who is steering the chariot. And the charioteer is an incarnation of the god Krishna. So he's actually there in the chariot with him, talking with him, this god incarnated in the form of a human being so they can communicate. And Arjuna has a problem. That is, he looks across at the other side and he sees people that he knows. He sees men that his friends and relations. And he's overwhelmed with anguish because he loves them and doesn't want to fight them, doesn't want to kill them, doesn't want to harm them. And so he's distraught, overcome with grief, and gives his reasons, for why he doesn't want to fight them. And that takes us to the end of the first section where he throws down his, having spoken thus, Arjuna, I guess it's Arjuna, not Arjuna. Arjuna threw aside his arrows and his bow. In the midst of the battlefield, he sat down in the seat of the chariot, and his heart was overcome with sorrow. So he decides not to fight, decides that he loves these people and he's not going to kill them. He'd rather be killed, he says. And that starts us off, this dilemma, this human being who's experiencing something terrible, war, and maybe experiencing something wonderful, love, pity, empathy, and decides that he will not engage in this destructive behavior. He will not engage in war and killing and all the things that a warrior does in a battle. And it's quite beautiful, and it gives us great admiration for Arjuna, the character. But what is the rest of the book? The rest of the book is the response, to some degree a dialogue between the two of them, but really the god Krishna's response to Arjuna. And that response may be quite surprising. Given the nobility of Arjuna in the first teaching, and given the admirable motivations he has not to fight, he's certainly not afraid of dying. He's afraid of killing somebody. It seems quite admirable. And what's surprising is that, to a certain extent, the rest of the book is Krishna's argument that Arjuna should go ahead and fight and kill. And that's what's most surprising. And that is what's most difficult about this text. And that is what opens it up as a philosophical text. I mean, it opens as maybe an ethical text. This man makes an ethical decision not to fight based upon principle. He loves these people. He doesn't want to harm them, so he shouldn't fight. Then Krishna has to show him, God has to show him that decision is actually wrong, that he should fight and he should kill. And he doesn't just dictate that to Arjuna. He gives him reasons. And it's those reasons that we are most interested in philosophically in this course, right? That is why should he do this? I think that to really answer the question, Krishna can't just say, well, this is why you should do it in any simple way. He's got to explain the whole nature of reality to Arjuna. That is, Krishna has to show him what reality is in order for Arjuna to see that the right decision is actually to fight, to do his duty, his social duty, maybe even his caste duty as a warrior in this society. To give you some hint of it, and I don't know if I'm not giving anything away, you can just read it. It says here on, what is this, page 36, this is part of Krishna's response, that reality which pervades the universe. Make it bigger. That reality which pervades the universe is indestructible. No one has power to change the changeless. Bodies are said to die, but that which possesses the body is eternal. It cannot be limited or destroyed. Therefore, you must fight. Some say this Atman, and that would be whatever that thing is that he's saying is changeless, a changeless reality. Some say this Atman is slain, and others call it the slayer. They know nothing. How can it slay, or who shall slay it? That is, the Atman, the self, the real self, underneath the apparent self, I suppose. It cannot kill, nor can it be killed. There is an underlying reality that is unchangeable. And you can just know it, but you can't do anything to change it. And we are all part of that reality. Right? Know this Atman, unborn, undying. So whatever you are and whatever I am, deep down, what we really are, is something unborn, something that was never born, something that's just truly eternal, something that's always been here. And it is undying. It will always be here, never ceasing, never beginning, deathless, birthless, unchanging forever. How can it die, the death of the body? So the body will die. You and I know that. Our bodies will die. But then there's a something else, which we are, which cannot die, which is part of the unchanging, deeper reality of the world. So this has obvious implications for Arjuna's situation. Not wounded by weapons, not burned by fire, not dried by the wind, not wetted by water. Such is the Atman. Not dried, not wetted, not burned, not wounded. Innermost element, everywhere, always. Being of beings, changeless, eternal, forever and ever. Really quite something that he's telling this man, Arjuna, on the eve of battle about what he would be doing in battle. You're not really killing them, and they're not really dead. That is an illusion. What you see through the senses, what you feel through your senses, how you were affected through your senses, that is all distraction from what is really real. And what is really real is something you cannot see, cannot touch, cannot feel, cannot taste or smell. It exists in a different way. So what Krishna is doing, really, in this incredible way, is trying to open up Arjuna's eyes to the true nature of reality so that he can gain more perspective on what's really happening to him.